Welcome to a More Beautiful World podcast with Susan Renee, a place for those of us with the desire to expand our consciousness, tap into higher vibrations of love, and to connect into a community where together we can make the world a more beautiful place. I'm so eager to share with you what I've learned on my journey in discovering how we're all connected and how what we do for one, we do for us all. Here, I'll be sharing my own experiences, knowledge, and expertise for how you can heal, transform, and ascend your being so that together we can create the more beautiful world we all know is possible. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of A More Beautiful World. In this episode, I'm going to dive into ways to cultivate your intuition to fuel your healing, your transformation, and of course, your self-love journey. I will be discussing in today's episode what intuition is, along with the different ways that you receive intuitive guidance, and also several practices you can use to deepen your connection to your intuition. You see, your intuition is always there. The problem is, most of the time, you're not listening to it. So if you are ready to learn how to easily listen to your intuition and let it guide you on your journey of healing, of transformation, and to self-love, then this episode is going to be for you. There is a quote that I recently stumbled upon that was my intuitive inspiration for this episode. And this quote is by Judith Orliff, and her quote is, "The key for those who are learning to love themselves is that you give space to the intuition." Again, the key for those who are learning to love themselves is that you give space to the intuition. Now, that really struck with me because, as you all know, we are on a journey to make this a more beautiful world, and that does begin with loving ourselves. And when I read this quote, I thought, ooh, we need an episode on intuition. So I want to start by covering what is intuition and again, kind of go through what it means when we say intuition, but also cover the different ways we can receive intuitions and how we cultivate really listening to that intuition. So to kick off, let's talk a bit about what is intuition. The way I see it, and again, there's a lot of variations of definitions of intuition out there, but I see it as your inner voice. It is your higher self. It is your connection to the divine, to the quantum, to the source, the universal field, universal knowledge, whatever you'd like to call that. But again, as I see it, it's the voice of truth that comes from within us. You know, it's led with our hearts. It is our innate intelligence that we are connected to. And again, it is our higher self. It is the voice of our higher self. So I do believe, our intuition is always there, though we're not always listening. So why is that? Right. And I think it's because our cognitive minds, our egoic minds, the ones that are trapped in these stories, right, in maybe fear, that can get kind of loud sometimes. And the more we allow that egoic mind, the cognitive mind to talk and to lead us, out of fear, then we're not going to have the ability to connect in and listen to our intuition. This episode pairs very well with the episode of Choosing Love Over Fear. So if you haven't yet listened to that episode, go back and check that episode out, because we don't want to be led by fear, right? We want to be led by love. And a big part of that is listening to your intuition. And again, as I had said, your intuition is always there. We just might not be listening to it because we have a very loud cognitive mind, a very loud ego, very loud stories, very loud fears that are overriding the system. So we need to make space to listen to our intuition so it can guide us. That is, I feel, one of the most important aspects of self-love, right? Because as we listen to our higher self, as we tap into our heart energy and this innate, intelligence, this innate wisdom that we all have, it's where we can start to operate out of love. And the more we listen to that higher self, the more loving we are actually being to ourselves because we're operating more out of love. And also on the reverse, the more we love ourselves, the more we're going to make time to listen, to our intuition. So they kind of fuel each other. And I really love the quote about the key for those who are learning to love themselves is that you give space to the intuition. So, I've talked to a lot of clients over the last few years about intuition and how do we tap more into the intuition. And I think an important place I want to start with you all today is to know that your intuitive guidance is going to look and feel differently from other people. There are kind of four main ways that we receive intuition. And I thought it was a good starting point because I know personally when I started hearing my intuition, I didn't know that that is what it was. And once I learned the different ways in which we receive intuition, it became more clear that was actually my intuition that was coming through. So I'm going to go through these four ways because I want you to have the awareness around different ways to be listening, right, for your intuition. So the first way in which you may receive intuition is through something called being clairaudient. And what clairaudient means is you actually hear the intuitive guidance as a gentle voice in your mind. So it's almost like your higher self just whispering, a little clues to you on your journey. So again, clairaudient, that's when we're hearing the intuitive guidance as a gentle voice. When you see intuitive guidance as images in your mind. So a lot of people will get flashes of images. You might see them as visions. You might see them as just like little glimpses. They could even be patterns, or you might actually like see a word in your mind. That is known as clairvoyant. So again, the second way we can receive intuition is through clairvoyance. And that is when you're literally seeing your intuitive guidance as some sort of images in your mind. So the next one is called claircognizant. And claircognizant folks know it's this knowing of intuitive guidance as a breakthrough thought or some sort of mental download. So a lot of claircognizance, as I've experienced it and as I've had some clients experience it, can really just kind of come out of nowhere. Sometimes when we're in nature, when we're in stillness, when we're in meditation, as this big breakthrough thought that just like drops in, or this mental download, and it's a knowing. So it's not this little whisper of a voice. It's kind of like this full knowing of a thought or a full download of something that, you're being guided to. Again, that is claircognizant. So the last one is clairsentient, and that is feeling the intuitive guidance. And that can be as a physical sensation, an emotional sensation, or even energetic sensations. I will tell you the clairsentient intuition is how I receive most of my intuitive guidance. It usually comes in energetic and emotional sensations. For me, I usually get a deep emotion about something as I'm like really feeling guided somewhere. Sometimes it can be physical as well, but it's usually more in an emotional or some sort of energetic sensation where, again, it's this feeling that you get that is guiding you. So again, you may receive intuition differently. You may receive it in a combination of these ways. You may just have one that's really dominant and the others come in very sparingly. So again, you might hear intuitive guidance as a gentle voice. That's going to be called clairaudience. You might see intuitive guidance as images in your mind. That is clairvoyant. You may just know. You may have a knowing, a breakthrough thought, a mental download. That is claircognizant. Or you might have a feeling, that can be a physical feeling, an emotional feeling, an energetic, sensation. That is clairsentient. So again, while I mentioned a lot of my intuitive guidance and knowing comes in through clairsentience, I also do get a lot of clairaudient guidance as well. So I have a lot of whispers, but I've also had a lot of clairvoyance. I've had a lot of images, and I've also had claircognizant moments as well. So it could be a mixture, but I think it's important that you know the differences, because as you're starting to cultivate your intuition and really learn how to listen to it and let it guide you, know that it can come from different sources, right? Different sensations, different feelings, different thoughts. And that's important because that helps us expand our awareness to know when intuition is being received. So again, I do feel that intuition really relates to self-love, and I feel it is our compass to know what is in alignment with your higher self, right? And your higher self is your loving being. It is your love, your light, right? So it can help you, guide you in knowing what is in alignment with that love and light that you are, and what is not, what is out of alignment with that. And so the more that you tap into your intuition and you follow its guidance, the more you are operating out of love for yourself, because you're in that alignment. You're in alignment with the love and light and that beautiful higher self and that spiritual being and all that you are. So I'm going to give you a quick recent example before we dive into how you can learn to listen more closely to your intuition and let it guide you. I want to give you an example of what recently showed up in my life, because even though I have really cultivated my intuition at this point in my life, I still, have little lessons and reminders that I need to listen to it. So, about a month ago or so, I was invited to a plant medicine ceremony, which I was extremely honored. It's a very tight-knit circle. They are very particular about who they will let in. And so it was a high honor, to be invited. And initially, right out of the gate, I knew it was going to be next to impossible. The logistics for me to get there, the timing of it, intersected with another trip I already had planned. The location was difficult for me to get to. There was just all these barriers. And so immediately, I knew the answer was no. Although I did not listen to it, because again, I was so honored to be invited. I was like, well, if I was invited, I must have to make this happen, right? So I accepted the invite just because I was so honored. But I can tell you, from the very moment that I said yes, I started to feel unease. I started to feel just this little discomfort. But I just kept avoiding it. I was like, oh, it's going to be fine. Oh, it's going to work out. There'll be a way that it works out. Like, I'll overcome all of these barriers. Well, my intuition has continued to whisper to me and calling to me, this is too difficult. This isn't in flow. This isn't in divine timing. This feels forced. And my logical mind, right, that cognitive mind, kept shushing it. Nope, we're going to figure it out. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be that bad. You're super tough. You can make it happen. Like, this was an honor. You must accept this honor. Right. So I kind of had this war of cognitive mind versus intuitive guidance going on. But when it finally came to, like, I have to make a decision, because at this point I have to start taking action, and I really felt into it. And when I allowed myself to get still and really access my intuition and fully open up to my intuition on it, honestly, everything just felt too difficult. And not in a way of like, oh, that's too hard and I don't want to do it. It was just logistically, it didn't make any sense. And as I do, I practice what I preach. It was not the full body fuck yes that I want when I say yes to something. It was not a full body fuck yes, which means it's a fuck no. And if you haven't listened to episode 3 of this podcast called Honoring Your Energy, go and do that. You can get more on the full body fuck yes versus the fuck no concept and letting that barometer guide you. So again, when I really dropped in and realized this is not a full fuck yes. So it has to be a no, right? And the moment that I allowed myself to feel into the no, to feel into the no, I'm not going, I've got to be honest, the moment I let my intuition come through and guide that decision, I felt a huge weight off of my shoulders. I felt more peace. I felt more ease. I felt more comfort. And while, there was a little bit of bittersweet there, because of course I did want to go to the ceremony and I know I will in the future, it just wasn't in divine timing. And this resistance, this forcing that I was up against to let go of that brought in the peace, brought in the ease, brought in the comfort, because it was my intuition guiding me. It was me getting into alignment with my higher self and trusting in divine timing. And what was so beautiful is that several other ideas and things immediately lined up and came in within moments of saying no. And that felt so much lighter and just so much more in flow and, so much more in alignment with my higher self. So there was a lot of relief that came to listening to my intuition in this instance. And honestly, in all instances, when I listen to my gut, it feels better. It just feels better. And I can tell you, 4 or 5 years ago, there is no way I would have backed out of that decision. There's no way I would have not accepted, such a high honor. So I was, reflecting on that story and how did I cultivate my connection to my intuition? How have I been able to navigate my decisions better based on my intuition? And so as I was feeling into that and thinking about this story for you all, I have aggregated 9 powerful practices that I'm going to share with you today. So you can really learn how to listen to your intuition. Because remember, it is always there. We just have to learn how to listen to it. So how do we do that? Practice number 1. Meditate, meditate, meditate. I'm not sure if there's an episode out there where I don't talk about meditation, but I really believe it is such a powerful practice. And the beauty of meditation is, in order to access our intuition, you do need to get quiet. That's a great way to be able to access your intuition. And you can do that in the stillness of meditation. I used to go to a spiritual center down in Phoenix, and they always used to say, praying is talking to God and meditation is listening to God. And I love that aspect here. And the reason I bring it up is because I do feel like meditation is listening to God. It's listening to your intuition. It's listening to your higher self. It's listening to that innate wisdom, that innate intelligence that is out there. So making just a few minutes a day to get quiet, take a couple deep breaths, listen, again, using your breath helps you quiet your mind and see what comes in. I spent a lot of time meditating with a journal right by me because sometimes I would get that little inner voice coming in, or I would get images, or I would get feelings, and I'd want to capture them to make sure I was capturing the intuitions that were coming through. So I have an entire episode on ways to bring meditation into your life. So check that out if you want more on meditation. But that is my absolute top practice for you to really begin to listen to your intuition. Number two practice is going to be to pay attention to your dreams and maybe even get into some dream journaling. So I feel our dreams are very, very powerful. And I think it gives us a beautiful window into the subconscious mind, into our intuition, into our higher self to know what's going on and what things are showing up and what might be happening underneath the surface that needs to come to the surface. So paying attention to your dreams can be a very powerful ally in listening and listening to your intuition. And even if you are not a vivid dreamer, if you don't dream very often, keeping a dream journal by your bed, writing in it the moment you wake up before you even get up, can be really powerful to help you start remembering your dreams. But as you pay attention to your dreams and you start to notice trends or you start to notice people, feeling into that and asking what that represents for you can help be a little compass and guide into your intuition and really learning how to listen to it. So, my third practice for you today is accessing your creativity. When we get more into our creative side, we tend to be a little more in flow. It gets us out of that cognitive mind, which creates space for us to listen to our intuition. So this is a tool I use often with clients, especially as they're moving through some emotions, maybe even a traumatic event in life. As you get into creativity, again, it quiets the cognitive mind. It brings in more guidance from your higher self. It gives you a stronger ability to listen to your intuition. So whatever creative outlet you choose, could be painting, could be writing, could be dancing, could be singing, playing the piano, playing another instrument, whatever creativity is for you is important. And again, accessing that really does help you start to make space to listen to your intuition. And again, remember your intuition can come in those few different ways we talked about at the beginning. And I've had people have some really powerful experiences of intuitive guidance as they were, painting or writing. So that's a great practice to bring in to help you listen to your intuition. Now, one of my personal favorites that I had to add in here today is getting yourself some oracle cards or tarot cards and start using them as much as possible. Now, you don't have to go out and, do readings for other people. You don't have to become a tarot card reader or an oracle card reader. This can simply be pulling a card for yourself every day, reading it, and seeing what shows up for you. It was last September, I believe, so approaching a year ago, that I got my first tarot card deck, and it has served me and my intuition so well. And I can tell you, I'm at a point in pulling the cards, which I was pulling them almost every day, and now I'm probably more on an every other day sort of cadence. But when I pull them, it's so fascinating. Before I look at the card, I can actually see parts of the card. I know what's coming. It has been a really fun way to tap in and access my intuition. So again, if you feel called to them, some oracle cards, some tarot cards, getting a deck, playing with them, the more and more you play with them, the more you're going to connect to those cards, and the more those cards are going to help you start to pull through that intuitive guidance from your higher self. So tons of fun, and also very powerful practice for you. So another thing when you're looking at, really listening more to your intuition is to notice your body signals. So we mentioned, the clairsentient feelings and the clairsentient way of receiving intuitive guidance. One of those is physical sensations. And so, as things are happening, are you feeling nauseous? Are you getting a headache? Do you all of a sudden feel really hot? Do you feel really cold? Maybe you get goosebumps, right? There could be a lot of different body signals that can happen. Some people get aura around their vision when big intuitive downloads are happening. Some people get little like trembles or shakes, twitches. There's all sorts of signals our body is giving us. So I know for me, on the negative side of things, when my intuition is telling me don't do it or this isn't in alignment, it's nausea. Nausea is like my number one no signal from my intuition. And my number one yes signal is chills. Or goosebumps. I kind of get like this rush of cold sensation across my body, and oftentimes it creates like goosebumps for me as well. So, and that is my yes. And again, because I have worked so much with it and expanded my awareness so much, now I know what those physical symptoms mean. And that is a guiding sign from my intuition when I'm, making decisions or facing, certain situations. So that's a great practice. Start becoming more aware of the signals your body is giving you. Next one, get out into nature. Oh gosh, getting out of your normal routine, getting away from technology, creating some space, getting some stillness, getting in that beautiful Mother Earth time is a great way to access your intuition. Just getting out, into the forest, at the lake, slowing down, that's going to help you receive and listen more to your guidance. So, because I think nature does such an awesome job of, resetting our parasympathetic nervous system, it really slows down that cognizant kind of monkey mind and allows the intuitive guidance to come in. So, nature has so many benefits. Just get out there, enjoy it, and enjoy the intuitions that come in. Feel more and think less is my seventh practice that I have for you. And I feel that we all think too much. There's so much busyness in our cognitive minds, especially with all the distractions we have nowadays with technology and social media and all this busyness we have to keep up on. And that often can disconnect us from our feelings. So make sure you're carving out every day, really, to feel more, and to just check in with yourself, even for 30 seconds. What am I feeling right now? Put your hand over your heart and just feel. Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you joyful? Are you pretty flat? Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling annoyed? Are you irritated? Are you, feeling trusting? Are you feeling patient? Are you feeling confident? Whatever it is, tap into more feelings. Because again, getting into our emotional state is going to help pull us out of the cognizant mind. And remember, our intuition is always kind of in this battle with the cognizant mind. So the more we can get into feeling, the more we're inviting intuition to come through versus the cognitive mind. Practice number 8 for you guys is to release resistance. This goes a lot with number 7. Probably could have put them in the same one, but releasing resistance is when you're really letting go of all of that mental chatter that is arguing with your inner voice. Your cognitive mind is going to try to argue out of you following your intuitive guidance, instead of trusting it, right? And again, that's where a lot of fear, it's where a lot of self-limiting beliefs, it's where a lot of our, past old neurosynaptic programming is coming through. And we don't need that. We want our intuition. So when you're feeling that resistance, when you're feeling that fear show up, when you're feeling like your mind is trying to argue out of your intuitive decisions, we have to release that resistance. There's a lot in this number 8 that I touch on in the episode Choosing Love Over Fear. So you may want to, again, check out that episode if you haven't already. But again, releasing that resistance when it shows up and allowing yourself to trust that intuitive guidance and just kind of let go and trust is such an important practice to really listening, more closely to your intuition. So the last one I'm going to share with you is breathwork practice. Breathwork is such a great way to get charge off of the nervous system. It's a great way to open ourselves up energetically. It is a very powerful way to just oxygenate our body, get energy moving, and again, to open up to receiving that intuitive guidance. So, probably as I'm receiving some intuitive guidance right now, I probably need a whole episode on breath work to really take you guys through some powerful practices and how to make that work. But getting into some breath work practice or some breath work classes around you would be an amazing way to help you again cultivate and listen more closely to your intuition. So, that's a lot. I always like to share a lot with you and keep these at a reasonable listening time so you can get them in every week. But again, I feel it is so important for you on your journey to self love to cultivate your intuition and to really learn how to work with it and learn how to decipher what is my intuition, what is my cognitive mind, and learn, how to listen to it more carefully, more regularly, maybe is a better way to say that. So use one of these 9 practices, or a few, maybe use 2, maybe use 4. Whatever one's called out to you today, start to bring those into your self-care routine to help you cultivate your intuition again, so you can build on your self-love, so you can start listening to your higher self and let it guide you on your healing, on your transformation, and on your self-love journey. And of course, if you want support, I'm here for you. I love being here for you. So if you need support, remember the link below. There is a session. Sign up for a free clarity call. I'm always happy to hold a gentle and loving space for you to talk more about this if you would like. But remember, my dear tribe, this is ultimately all about the mission of making our world a more beautiful place. And that does begin with better loving ourselves. So as you learn to listen to your intuition, your higher self, right? That love and light being that you are, you will create more flow, more peace, and more love in your inner world. And that is reflected in your outer world. And that reflects into the world all around us. So use the practices that I shared here today. Listen to your intuition, look at the different ways you might be receiving your intuition and do that to help make this a more beautiful world for us all. That is all for today, tribe. Until next time, much love to you all, tribe. Hey, tribe. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this podcast, make sure to like the video below and then click subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, I've got lots of free resources available to you to support your healing, transformation, and ascension so you can help in making this a more beautiful world for us all. Make sure you check them out in the description below. Thanks again for tuning in, tribe. And until next time, much love to you all.